Hey guys, this video is for 7th grade, day 3. I just wanted to walk you through the lesson like I did for the last two, just to give you an idea of what is expected from you today. So today we're going to be working backwards to find the parts and dimensions of the circle by using your new understanding of circles. So the warm-up, just a heads up, this lesson, before I get into the warm-up, is actually 2 lessons in one. So just make sure that you continue on in the lesson when you go through the slides. And I'll show you that as we move forward. So the warm-up is actually a good question I wanted to go over with you because I felt like on the homework I was seeing this happen a lot. So let's take a look at the first one. It gives us a circle and it has a diameter, and the diameter of the circle is 20 inches, it looks like. Okay, so the first thing they want us to do is find the area. Now, when we find the area, we have to remember that this is our formula. When I was grading the work for our area lesson, a lot of students were just taking the diameter and plugging it in for the radius. That is incorrect. If we have a diameter, then we have to do what we know about the relationship between diameter and radius, which again would be if the diameter is 20, a radius is half of the diameter because 2 radiuses make up a diameter. Okay, so 10 would be the number we plug in here. So then it would be area equals pi times 10 squared. Now, a few mistakes that I saw happen. Some of you were just multiplying pi and 10 and leaving it at that. Some of you were multiplying pi times 10 first and then raising that product to the second power. If we remember our order of operations, we have to do our exponents first. And that's what I modeled for you guys in yesterday's lesson, to do this part of the formula first. So you have to do 10 squared. Again, it is not 10 times 2, which a few of you still did, even though I corrected it in yesterday's video. 10 squared is the same as saying 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is much different than 10 times 2. So we would have area equals 100 pi. Okay, so again, if you remember yesterday, we talked about how this is our answer in terms of pi. And then when we want to take it out of pi, we put that in our calculator, we solve it, and I know this answer already because I saw it multiple times on your work. It would be, oh my gosh, look, now I'm freezing. 314.15, ... Okay, and then we would round to the nearest tenths place, which would make this 314.2, and it was inches squared. Okay, so that's how you find your area of a circle as a reminder. Okay, that was our final answer. In the warm-up, it also asks you to find the circumference. So let's just go over that as well because we're going to need that for today's lesson. So the same problem, our diameter is 20. So if we think about circumference, we had 2 formulas. We had C equals pi times D, and we had C equals 2 times pi times R. So depending on which one we were given, we would use that given formula. So since we're given a diameter, let's use the diameter formula. So this would be C equals pi times 20. I usually rewrite that as 20 pi. That would be our answer in terms of pi. And then if I take my calculator, I would check that. It would be 20 times pi. And that would give us C equals 62.831 and so on. And then we would round that again to the nearest tenth. So this would be C equals 62.8 because the 3 would keep the 8 there. Okay, so it'd be 62.8, and circumference is just the units, not the units squared. Okay, so a quick reminder of how to find area and circumference, especially for those of you that were making those common mistakes that I just went over with you. Okay, so that's your first warm-up question done for you. You can try the second one based on what I just modeled. But again, today we're going to be working backwards. So something that we have to remember is what it means to leave an answer in terms of pi. Okay, so when we leave an answer in terms of pi, you do all the calculations in that formula until the only thing you have left is the number and pi. And then that answer is what we call in terms of pi. So, for example, if we were told that the circumference, if we were told to find the circumference, I'm going to use C for circumference so I don't have to keep writing it. Find the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 4, and leave your answer in terms of pi, well then we would just use our formula, C equals pi d, and we would plug in 4 for the diameter. So this would be C equals pi times 4, but remember we usually like to write the number in front of pi. So this would be our answer in terms of pi. Pretty simple if you take a look at it again. So it said leave your answer in terms of pi, find the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 4. So if we look at the circumference formula that has diameter in it, it's C equals pi times d. So it would be C equals pi times 4, and we just rewrite it as C equals 4 pi. Now, if they told us to find the circumference of a circle that has a radius of 3, well, then we have to think about what's the other formula that we can use for circumference. So the other formula we can use for circumference is C equals 2 times pi times r, right? And if we plug that in, it would be 2 times pi times 3. And looking at this, the multiplication that I can do would be 2 times 3. So I would rewrite this as 2 times 3 is 6, and I just bring down my pi. So my circumference is now in terms of pi. Okay, so again, leave answers in terms of pi. Find the circumference of a circle given the radius of 3. So we use this formula now instead. We plugged in where we see r, we plugged in 3. We did the multiplication of 2 and 3, and we get our answer in terms of pi. Okay? So the same thing, same idea could be understood, but instead of finding the circumference, we could find the area. So for example, find the area of a circle with a radius of 4, right? So we're going to be finding the area of a circle with a radius of 4. So again, we're going to use the formula for area of a circle, which is A equals pi times r squared. So we know that our radius is 4, so we're going to plug in 4 for r. So this would be A equals pi times 4 squared, which again is not 4 times 2. It's 4 times 4, which would leave us with 16. and we just bring the pi over into our answer. So the area of this circle would be 16 pi. Okay, and again, we're focusing on our answers in terms of pi. All right, so I think that kind of gave you a quick overview of some questions you're going to see come up in the lesson, but let me go through it a little bit more to make sure I covered everything. Okay, so in the example that's provided in the lesson for working backwards, they tell you that a circle has a circumference that is 14 pi. Okay, so there's a circumference that is 14 pi. So that means that C equals 14 pi, right? I just abbreviated circumference with the letter C. So if I think about my two formulas for circumference, C equals pi d and C equals 2 times pi times r, which one does this look like? So the formula that this one looks like would be C equals pi times d. Because if we look here, this is pi times some number. So if it's looking like this, C equals pi d, then what do you think 14 represents? 14 is going to be equal to our diameter. Okay, so in this question, what they did, they gave you the circumference. They told you it was 14 pi. You wrote down C equals 14 pi. You then said to yourself, okay, well, I know these are the two formulas for circumference. So if I use these two formulas, which one does this look like? Well, it looks like C equals pi times d, and if that's the case, then 14 must be my diameter. And if we know that 14 is the diameter, then what else can we figure out? If 14 is the diameter, then we can also figure out our radius. And again, that is the understanding that two radiuses make up a diameter. So if we split the diameter in half, then that will be 7, which is our radius. So we were able to get all of that information just from being told that our circumference was 14 pi. If it's 14 pi, again, we know that 14 is our diameter. And since 14 is our diameter, then 7 is our radius. Okay, goes through a few more examples in the lesson. Goes through exactly what I just modeled for you. I'm just looking at it myself to make sure I don't leave anything out. Yep, okay. Then there is this wrap-up mix-up. There is a Google form for this in your classroom. It's assigned to you. This is your classwork for today. So make sure, once you're comfortable with this assignment, that you answer that wrap-up mix-up in your Google Classroom, okay? And before I get into the next part of this lesson, I'm just gonna pause and start a new video so that you guys could finish up your work in the lesson, check it against the answer key lesson, and then do your wrap-up mix-up that's in the classwork assignment in your classwork tab in Classroom, okay?